our stories get so in the way. One of the things that was most an impediment with my growth with Blaze was me continuing to tell his trauma story. Blaze doesn't repeat his trauma story. He doesn't even know that he's got one. And I would tell it, and I could use it as excuses, and I found myself telling it all the time, and that was my description of him. And he's so much bigger and more than that, and it was so limited. This is a magnificent, talented, athletic horse. So I had to get out of my own way and let go of the story. But I think we do that as parents too. I've done workshops with parents. What is your story? And I've used my narrative with Blaze to help them understand how much of a burden that can be for the children and how many barriers that can put up. And even though you've got to go out and advocate like crazy with a kid with a challenge, and you've got to be there for them, and it's imperative they can't do that for themselves initially, stepping back from that and allowing that is one of the most difficult and challenging and greatest gifts a parent can give their child or our horses.
Welcome to the Herd is Calling podcast. This is where we break free from conventional norms to explore the art, science, and wonder of the horse-human connection. I'm Josh Williams, and together with my wife Victoria, we're your hosts. Our mission is to inspire and empower you to improve the lives of horses. Subscribe to The Herd is Calling on Substack for behind-the-scenes stories and unique content. Now, let's get to the episode. Welcome to the Herd is Calling podcast. Today we have a very special guest. We have Barb Cass here in the studio with us. I'm going to introduce Barb and then we'll get to asking her some questions. Okay. Barb was born and raised in Connecticut and has been on the West Coast for the past 45 years. Her career has been about working with families. She co-founded a therapeutic boarding school in 1984 and moved into parent coaching in 2004 when that school closed. Her focus has been on supporting parents to develop more effective parenting through improved communication, self-exploration, and understanding their role in the relationship. Her current goals are focused on my horse journey and how she can be the best horse person she can be. Welcome, Barb.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Great. It's a privilege to have you here. I've known Barb for a couple of years now. Yeah. And Victoria started working with Barb a little before that with some lessons. And when we first got the idea to do my horse journey, it was more of an immersive experience. We went and visited Barb to float the idea by her and see what she thought. And we were actually not totally sure about it. We're a little insecure because it was new, it was different. And Barb was super supportive. She was all in from the beginning. And she's been here nonstop ever since. So I feel like we've sort of co-founded some of our frameworks together because you've been really inspirational and influential for all of our stuff. You're the star of one of our testimonial videos. Your horse Blaze, I just smile every time I see his face. And I just really appreciate you, appreciate your wisdom, appreciate your experience, appreciate you supporting and mentoring us. And I appreciate you being here to share your story with everybody else too.
I've loved every step of it.
Great. Yeah. Great. Maybe we could get started by just zeroing in a little bit on your life today. Tell us about your horse, what a day in the life looks like in your horse life these days.
In my horse life. Well, I've been fortunate to retire mostly, which has been really delightful. And wondering, a couple of years ago when I was thinking about retiring and what I would do, I thought, oh, I'll spend time with Blaze, but I had absolutely no idea it was going to open up to the opportunities that it has. And it was so serendipitous and great manifesting and all of that to meet you both and to be able to step into this journey with you. And it is, as I think I said in one of the clinics, I feel like everything I've done in my life has brought me to this point, which is probably one of the most enjoyable and what I feel really productive and growth steps. I just love it. Yeah, it's been fabulous.
Yeah, awesome. So you're out at Ghost Rock Ranch. Cherie's on one of our podcasts too, who owns and manages Ghost Rock. Beautiful place. Your horse Blaze.
My horse Blaze.
wonder if should we talk about Blaze a little bit?
Yeah, tell us about Blaze.
Oh, Blaze. Blaze is, I have to be careful so I don't say he's my number one favorite son, because my son Colin gets a little bit burned by that. Blaze is phenomenal. He has been a treasure. He's a gift. He came into my life about 10 years ago when I was volunteering at Equine Outreach. He came in, and for whatever reason, with all the horses I'd been handling, I really wasn't working or training them or anything, but just dealing with, he just spoke to me, and it was love at first sight. And we have spent all of those 10 years developing our relationship and getting him to a point where he is today, which is, I think, spectacular given where we started. I mean, he was a rescue, came from an abusive situation, and he's just stepped into this whole process, and he loves it. And he's thriving. Yeah, he's my joy.
Yeah, he's a beautiful horse.
Yeah.
Big personality.
Yeah.
I know it's not real pleasant to think about, but could you mind sharing just the situation that he was rescued from, just for perspective?
Yeah, as far as I know, and again, part of this is what I've heard and sort of developed, but he came from Prineville, and when they got a call from the people that had him, they literally said, if you're not here by 5 o'clock, we're gonna shoot him. They couldn't catch him. He was in a pretty crappy situation in terms of his pen, and in fact, when he came in, he was up to above his elbows, I guess, it just all water soggy and a mess. He wasn't undernourished necessarily, but just unkempt and terrified of being caught. And I guess it took quite a while to catch him and load him. And he came in, and he was in a round pen, because that was the only space they had for him at the time, and they needed him separated, and he just shook. He just stood and shook for days. He just, and when I saw him, for whatever reason, he came up and greeted me, and the rest is history. And I spent probably, trying to think, maybe 2 years still out there, not doing anything with him. I could halter him. I was the only one that could halter him or catch him. He had a really bad accident with a hot wire catching him in his hind leg when he was galloping with a bunch of horses out in the field, and cut him almost to the bone, and he couldn't even be treated. I mean, that's how terrified he was all the time. And I was able to groom him and start touching him all over, but didn't have a clue how to work with him. So in hindsight, and without any, it's just what I could do at the time, I just loved on him and was with him, but I didn't do anything to really work with him. One person did a little bit, but not a lot. He had been ridden, so he was able to be tacked up, but he was just frozen inside. He was just gone. He was so disassociated with himself. He would perform, but he was frightened all the time. And I moved from Equine Outreach over to Western Sky Ranch, which is now Mustangs to the Rescue. This is it. And found a trainer, Teresa Bickle. Her husband did Blaze's feet. When I was able to get a male farrier, and I worked with a female farrier for years just so he would be afraid. And Teresa was fabulous. She's, I think, from Montana, I don't know. And she just came in and she did a lot of Pirelli work. And she was like, you gotta step this up. You just keep traumatizing your horse with your own limitations and fears. And I thought, I know that to be true. I know that from my work with kids. So she did a lot of preliminary work, and I was told by another trainer who I really respect that we were doing great work, but I would never ride him, that he was too traumatized to be ridden, but this was great for him anyway, just to be handled. And I just kept taking it forward and thinking we'll find the next trainer when Teresa left, and got to ride him, and and then when we moved to Ghost Rock, I just kept working and doing that, and then the best work has been obviously the work, the work we've done together with him, because he's got so much potential, and I'm trying to catch up with it.
Right.
Yeah. All the time trying to catch up with it.
That's what we're all doing.
That's what we're all doing, yeah.
We're all
He's
doing.
magnificent. He's just a joy.
Yeah, I want to come back to, I actually am just curious, what do you think initially when he wouldn't let anybody else put a halter on him, and what do you think that was between you and him, you and Blaze, that he said, I think I could let this person in just a little bit?
God, that's a good question. I didn't have an agenda with him. I had no expectations.
I mean,
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
It's just like a
It's
heart to heart.
emotional.
It is
Yeah.
emotional. Yeah. I always get emotional when I think about it. And I said this, and it sometimes sounds trite, but I was committed. No one was for him. Again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very clear. And I think all of my work with kids and their deep wounds, and that's where I think those parallels, which I really never understood before, but the parallels between working with a horse, especially with deep wounds, it's kind of a no-brainer. And it keeps continuing that theme of how you work and build relationships with peers and how you do it with your horse is so apparent to me. And you lose sight of it. I lose sight of it sometimes in some of the tools and skills. But yeah, I just saw beyond that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I hear too is just you had a very clear intention.
Yeah.
That was just like it was like a heart-centered, again, not to use all these kind of words that get overused, but it just, and that's what resonated between you and...
That's true. I hadn't thought about it in terms of that, but you're exactly right. I did.
Sad.
Yeah, my intention, I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I was going to do that.
Nobody was
Yeah.
ever going to hurt.
No.
That was your intention.
Yeah.
Wow. And he went, I'm with you.
Yeah, he said, "Oh, that's good."
That's good. But they do. They feel that. That's the language that we're trying to get to all the time. So
Yeah. And I think at that point, I look back and I think I wish I had more knowledge or I wish I had more skills. But I think it worked in my favor because I had nothing but patience. I didn't go, it was fine to just go out and spend. I love spending time with him and just hanging with him, taking him for walks. And I didn't have the knowledge or the foresight to see that I could be doing other things with him. So it gave us really long time to just build a bond.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. I hope people hear that and really take stock too, because those are two of the fundamental principles of connecting and communicating with horses. One is having a solid foundation, intention. It's not like I would like to, it's more of like I must, and you just know, even though you may not know the steps on how to get there, you know where you're going.
Right.
And then the other is beginner's mind, which even if you have experience, we try to cultivate that, and you had that naturally. So you had these two just really powerful things without knowing, without trying. It was just already there. Yeah. And then of course, all of your background working with relationship, trauma, healing, connection through your work with families and children. It's a consilient connection where everything lined up. So looking back, it's just like this perfect puzzle where everything actually was fitting together, but you were just in the moment experiencing it. It's really beautiful.
Thank you. And in hindsight, and I've never framed it the way you just put it, which is lovely to hear. I'd never thought about it like that, but it is true. It's nice to actually, in retrospect, look at it and think what the advantages were.
I think so many people, and I can relate to this myself, like you just think, oh, I can't really enjoy this until I know more, or I can't really identify as maybe a horse person until I've gotten to a certain level, until I can lope easily and I know all the terminology and I can walk in a tack room and know what everything is and where it goes. But really, that's not necessary. It's nice when you can get all of that. It's part of the journey, acquiring skill and knowledge, but just having that, the heart, the beginner's mind, the intention, that's really where the marrow of it all is. So I think your story really illustrates that. The fact that he wouldn't trust or connect or even let anybody else associate with him, but you came with those qualities within you, and who did he trust? So yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, some of that stuff gets in the way. It's gotten in my way so many times. I've found that because I am like, the horse needs to do this and the horse needs to do this, and then we can't do that till the horse does this. And often I have to keep stripping down.
Yeah.
Nope, let's get deeper.
Yeah, It's true. Each time I had to do anything with him, whether it was, as I said, he wouldn't let anybody treat that wound. There was an initial treatment of it. They had to. That was the end of it. And I had to figure out what I was going to do to keep this horse healthy. And I had no idea, so I played with a hose every day with him for probably 4 or 5 months until it healed. I didn't know, I knew he wasn't going to let a man near him because that's who traumatized him, so I had to find somebody that was willing to work really slowly, just picking up his feet before he could have his feet trimmed. So every step of that, I had no clue what I was stepping into, but we had to figure it out as we went along. And it was always with what was best for him. Always what was best for him. How was I going to get him through this?
And he sensed it.
Yeah.
He knew it.
Yeah.
He was like, yep,
Yeah, let's do it.
it's real.
We talked about intention and beginner's mind, but I just thought of the first 2 values in our manifesto that we all co-created as a community. Love. So you had the heart of love, and then you had the curiosity. Like you knew you must do this.
Yeah.
It's not a question. So then you were just curious. I'm going to play around with the hose. I'm going to figure this out. And you knew if it took 1 week or 5 months, you're going to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just, literally it was day by day. It was minute by minute with him, always.
Yeah. Great. Before we move on to, I just wanted to see when you first decided to volunteer at this place, where'd that come from? Why did you choose that? And did you plan on trying to have your own horse to take care of?
No, when I was in California, we were on 10 acres. I had a couple of horses. One of them was very old. And my younger one, I sold to somebody that was way more qualified to work with this little Arab than I was. So she got a good home, and I brought Sugar up and boarded her at Western Sky.
Okay.
Joan Steelhammer sold us our house, and she was just setting up equine outreach at the time. And it wasn't even established. And the whole time we were looking at houses, I was talking to her about the rescue. I said I want to volunteer there, and I was probably one of the first volunteers. I just went out and mopped for months, just cleaned stalls and whatever. And I was there for, I can't remember how many years, and just decided it was probably time to change and figure something else out. And that's when we moved over to Western Sky. But Joan was really dedicated and absolutely committed to horse rescue. And they had just done the Milliken Rescue, which was about 130 horse rescue. It was a collaborative effort, devastating in many respects, and she was very instrumental in following through with that and did terrific work. And a lot of the horses that were out at the rescue were from the Milliken Rescue, or a number of them, I should say. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just felt really fortunate that I had a place a whole new area to go and be with horses.
Yeah. I was thinking when you talked about catching Blaze, like whoever was helping there must have had some skill, because that sounded like a really challenging.
Yeah, and Joan was really good at that. She was really patient. She was, there were so many really good things that happened with that.
So, how were you first drawn to horses? Why were you first drawn to? Take us back. We'll kind of go back and then we'll come forward again. But where did it all begin for you?
You know, I've pondered this because I've thought about it and thought of it. I know I've said, and most of the people involved with this say they never did love horses. It feels so old and ancient to me. I don't think I had a choice. I think it came with me, and everything. I was talking with Jim when we were driving the other day even when I see a horse out in the pasture, I have to be careful. I don't drive off the road. Well, I can tell you every horse I saw. I couldn't tell you which cars I see or whatever. It's just been a part of me. I have always loved them. I think one of the things that you said in maybe one of our clinics was that you feel seen by them. And there's something that really does feel ancient. The connection, it just feels home. And it's never not felt like that. And I did not have a lot of exposure to horses when I was a kid. I mean, I was thinking on the way out here, my parents did the best they could. And, when we first talked, I said that I'd had lessons periodically, but there were little clumps of lessons. And I've realized recently how, in many ways, unfortunate it is that some of the barns, I did never feel a part of the barns that I went to. I didn't feel like I had the longevity with the situation. I didn't feel like I had a team. I just felt like I went and they kind of put you on a horse and you rode, and it was like, I loved that, but I quested for way more than that. And that was always missing in my childhood. Yeah, I mean, and I didn't have that until my mid-40s when I decided to get a horse. I was just like, I don't know anything about it, I'm going to get a horse, and I did.
And that was in California.
That was in
at that
California,
point.
yeah. And we had the school at the time, and we were on 260 acres, and some of it was fenced, and I had a little shed for it, and went and basically rescued a horse that had been left to somebody when his wife left him, and he didn't know what to do, and she was a really pretty little, way undernourished Arab that once she got nourished was way more horse-like. Totally. But that's how I got started. Yeah.
Can you tell us about your school?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just since you brought it up, and that was also the beginning of your next chapter with horses.
When I was in my mid-20s, I came out to California. I had a pretty wild teens and early 20s. I came up through the 60s, so that was pretty crazy. And a lot of destructive behavior, a lot of, we talk about shame, a lot of shame-based behavior. And I started volunteering, maybe it was interning, I wasn't volunteering, I was interning at one of the only therapeutic programs for adolescents in the country. There was nothing available then. There were no wilderness programs, there were no specialized programs, there was nothing. There was one other school on the East Coast. This was on the West Coast. And I was at that school for 8 years. And it was fascinating. It was very cult-like. It was based on if you're at all familiar with Synanon, it was a very harsh recovery, but drug recovery program that was popular at the time, based on EST and LifeSpring and all of those TA programs and TM, Transcendental Meditation, and all of those programs. But it was a fascinating experience. You went through it pretty much even as a staff, you went through it as a student. So workshops and groups constantly and introspection, a lot of shame-based stuff. A lot of it was based on that, and it was kind of a concept of tear down the person to their nothing so you can build them up again. And that was sort of the premise at the time. And we, at one point, a group of us decided that we weren't crazy about how things were being run. So we left and I co-founded our school in Northern California in 1984. And it was beautiful. We were on 260 acres. It was stunning. It was a lovely, lovely program. Changed many things with it. I ran the counseling department, basically. Was head of the counseling, and we worked with adolescents. It was about a 2-year program, so we had kids for a couple of years. So it was all about creating relationships and bonding. And again, as we've talked about, there's a lot of things now in hindsight I would have done very, very differently. Some of the kids that we didn't serve very well because of some of their challenges. And we also did some fabulous work and created lifelong relationships with kids that are now in their 40s, 50s, so, and it was about healing the family and bringing these kids back to themselves and allowing them to fall in love with themselves again and who the essence of them was and what they'd lost and how to get that back. So it was, it was magnificent.
Amazing.
It was amazing. Yeah. And it unfortunately, a lot of the things that we didn't like about our initial program that I was with got dragged along with us. And there was a lot of unhealthy management styles and that kind of thing. And it imploded. I mean, we went from being literally the top of the game at one point, and it closed very suddenly and very, very traumatically. And it was one of the probably most difficult transitions I've ever made in my life. It was very painful.
Wow.
And I had no choice. It was like, now what? You've lost everything, and now what? And the now what was stepping into coaching and deciding I was going to try and figure out the next phase, and that's what I did. Yeah.
How long was that school open?
20 years.
20 years, and you had 8 years before that of working with the other group.
Yeah.
And then you, wow.
Yeah, and then when we moved up to Bend in 2005, I was working at a young adult program, college program in town that a friend of mine had started, and did some coaching for them, and then eventually just bought Parent Coach Professionals and took over for some folks that had brought me on board. And my business partner, Vicki, and I have had that for 11 years.
So tell us about Parent Coach Professional.
Well, Parent Coach Professionals, which is changing as we speak,
Right.
and the industry's changing, sadly. Our focus is with parents. Mostly we contract with parents whose students or kids have been put in program. So there's programs now all over the country that are brilliant. They work with different profiles of students, and they really have explored how to help them develop life skills, work with their challenges, figure out who they are, create a healthier, different relationship with their parents, because most of this has been pretty disruptive. We work with parents almost exclusively, try and look at what their strengths are. Most parents will start off, because they are in crisis, when we begin working with them, they'll start talking about what they've done wrong, and we want to focus on what you might have lost the way, but what do you know has worked, what do you do well, what are your goals, what are your intentions. They often want to focus on their child's goals and intentions, so our work is to bring them back to themselves and often look at what are some of their patterns. What are some of the things that they have done that they can change? Certainly communication is probably one of the biggest things we do. We talk about boundaries. We talk about, it's exactly the same thing, which is ironic because you're always talking to me about you have to have clearer boundaries with Blaze.
Some parallels.
Right. And meeting the parents where they are in the moment. And that's the hugest piece, because they come to us in crisis. They come to us in deep shame and guilt and embarrassment and every single level of everything that we've all experienced. And we listen. And we reflect back and we mirror. And we try not to advise. We try to allow individuals to find their own answers in a way that works for them most effectively, so that there's sustainability in what they're doing. I love it. I love it. Because the parents that come to us, they want something different. They love their children deeply. They've tried everything, they've said, we've done this. They feel like they've got a litany of things that they have tried and they feel have failed at. So it's an opportunity for them to incrementally get some successes and build on them.
As a parent, that sounds really good.
Sounds amazing.
That sounds really nice. Yeah, because it's so fraught, parenting.
It is. I think it's, much like we look back at the work we've done with the horses or anything we've done, it's so easy to identify and own and stick with the stuff that you've screwed up, but we don't often really recognize and give ourselves credit and celebrate our victories, which we're not taught to do, and culturally and everything. We're just not taught that that's something that you get to do for yourself. You don't get to pat yourself on the back. You're supposed to go in and confess, for God's sakes. It's like, what? Come on. Let's identify the good stuff. So, it's really fun. I love it.
One thing that you've helped me out a lot with is being more confident with not needing to help people. And I'm talking about horsemanship and riding instruction and horsemanship instruction and horse training. You've helped me with, it actually works better, and you don't have to give everybody the answers that they are asking for. Like, it's better to facilitate their own process. And that has been so powerful for me as a riding instructor and as facilitators of this program that we're doing, My Horse Journey, because it's more effective when folks figure out their own way that works for them. You have these principles that you and this framework that you guide through. It's so fun.
It's fun. It's challenging.
It is challenging.
Number one, there's lots of kudos for having the answers for everything all the time.
Right?
And it's like, oh, aren't I clever? But what is really good is to be able to be in that place of curiosity and let them find that, so that it's got to have more longevity. Most people want you to give them the answers. I mean, certainly in our work. and I'm sure with you as well. But
that's the interesting piece too.
Yeah.
It's like you actually, sometimes I feel like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not doing my part of the deal when I'm not just do it this way, you know?
Right. And oftentimes people will just say to me, could you just tell me? You know, they'll get annoyed with me. I'm just asking you, what would you do? And you just have to flip it back, and you keep flipping it back. And also, I use a lot of humor. You have to, because otherwise you crumble. It's a great thing to point out to people, which is what's going on with your discomfort right now. What would be different if I gave you the answer rather than you finding the answer? So that's all part of the exploration, and I watch you do that all the time. Yeah.
No, that's so cool though. It is fun. It can be more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I do agree it's so much more sustainable. And horses, you know, it really is a relationship that you're trying to build. So for an instructor or the quote unquote professional or expert to come in and say, do this way, it doesn't always translate the same. So you really, people, I think, do better when they come at it with their unique gifts and talents and perspectives.
Right.
But that does take some mining.
Well, and you might plant the seed. I mean, you know this. I was talking to Josh before you came in. There was something Chrissy said the other day that we've talked about endlessly, and I finally practiced it at the barn the other day. I mean, I go out probably 5 days a week, and I thought, don't talk, do it halftime, move your horse away from where he's always woodsy, and I had a very different day with him. How many times have we talked about that? So you plant seeds. And they show up when they can, when you're ready for them. And that, I think, you're a placeholder for that. And that's a big responsibility. As an instructor, teacher, whomever, parent.
Right.
Hey friends, Josh here. We've launched a free community for The Herd is Calling. It's on Substack. Subscribe to join thoughtful discussions and access exclusive content. It's as easy to use as social media, but so much better because social media. Am I right? In the words of John Lennon, a dream you dream alone is only a dream, but a dream you dream together is reality. Like the wisdom of the herd, we are stronger together. Click the link nearby to subscribe and get in on the conversation. Now, back to the pod. I want to get back to the parallels between parent coaching and horses, because there's so many interesting parallels, and I'm really excited to connect those dots with you. Sure. I was wondering at first, you have this unique perspective, because when you first started working at the first place you worked, you said there was only 2 in the country. Yeah. Now it's like a huge industry. It's all over the place. There's several right here in Central Oregon. And then you started your own. Like, you've just seen the arc of this industry really form. And I'm curious, you said in passing that things are changing now, and you said sadly. So I was just curious, what's going on there?
There's been a lot of, when I first started working with kids, there was no restrictions. I mean, we spent time with kids. We'd have kids over to our house. They'd come over for meals. They'd come over for the holidays. You could sit and, put your arm around them. You could hug them. There's been so much that's happened that's just tightened all of that up. Some of it for the good and very important. And then there's been a ton of legislation that's happened. People get panicked when they hear stories. When you've got an industry as big as ours, there's going to be problems, there's going to be mismanagement, there's going to be deaths, there's going to be all kinds of stuff that happen. And so rather than, I think, really exploring that, they've just keep tightening it and making it more restrictive. And it's an expensive industry. You cannot, the schools that I'm talking about are really expensive. It's like putting your kid through a college education. And so many people can't do that. So now what is happening is a lot of programs are going to being more insurance driven and short term. So what were longer term programs, like there's no 2 or 3 year programs. I mean, if we needed a kid for 3 years, the parents were willing to do it. We had them. Wow. Now it's like 3 months. I mean, it'd be like taking a horse in for 3 months and doing, quick training and thinking it's going to be sustainable. So that what saddens me about it is I think it's not spectacular for the child, and I don't think families can move and shift and change and figure out things that quickly, not with so much trauma in their past. So it's not happening everywhere, but we're watching a trend.
Okay.
And I think also COVID, impacted that as well. So there's a lot of things that are happening. So at this point in my life, I'm really not doing much more of the program coaching. I'm doing mostly private coaching, and it's a good time for me to step back from that, having seen the whole trajectory.
Interesting. So if I'm hearing you correctly, there's a combination of legislative and regulatory tightening, and then on top of that, the length of time you're able to work with people has gone from multi-year to like a few months, if that.
In some programs. I mean, it's becoming more attractive. What's happened is it can be a money-making business, so you've got corporations coming in.
I was just going to say, it sounds to me like the slippery slope of the corporatization of healing, and and it's never, that's never going to be a good thing.
Not in my book.
Right.
No, I've watched, and in fact, that's part of what destroyed this school that we had. I mean, there was so many factors involved. But part of that, people seeing the opportunity to sell a program, and they sell it to big business, and they say you're going to remain autonomous, but you can't. They want heads on beds, as they say.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
And there are brilliant programs out there that
Sure.
I completely love and respect, and they're hanging on and really trying to do the best that they can with it. But it's a challenge these days. There's a lot of things working against them.
Yeah. Wow. Is that part of why your new business, Parent Coach Professionals, is that why you're focused more on parents, or was that always the case?
No, it was always the case.
Okay.
And when I first started doing this work, I mean, back in the late 70s, parents were completely eliminated from the process. They were considered the bad guys. I mean, they really were villainized. And it was partially because of the group I was working with and the work we did. It was like, we're missing a huge part of our team. This is ridiculous. So that's where we created parent workshops, parent seminars. I would go to different parent groups around the country to help them sustain what they were learning, and we embrace that. And I will say, I really feel clear that we have put parent coaching on the map. I mean, it was unheard of. They were like, what are you talking about? So we have really established that. So most programs now either want to do their own parent coaching internally or they hire out to do it. But everybody, even therapists now, are really embracing the whole concept. So there's a lot of wonderful movement with that and a lot of growth around that, which is fabulous.
So you saw that need quite a while back and filled that void. Yeah. Oh, that's powerful. I can only think of, I mean, not to just quantify value, but you've probably helped thousands of kids and or families, which would be many thousands of people then.
Yeah, truly. It is. I mean, that's true.
That's powerful. It's kind of interesting just to tie it back to horses and the consiliency. That's similar was our motivation with my horse journey, was after for years working more goal centric, even in the trainer industry where people drop a horse off, say, I want to compete in cutting this year. I want to do the show circuit and get my horse ready for me. And then, you come back, a few lessons and they go off. Yeah. So the idea was more to put the focus on the people, our inner journey, so to speak. The horsemanship begins within, to think about what's going on within yourself and how that is affecting your relationship. So I'm seeing a parallel there.
It's huge. I mean, it's hours of conversation about it, because we're talking about what are the most intimate relationships you can have between you and your horse. And I mean, if you can't journey inside, you'd buy a bicycle.
True, 100%. That's like my, I totally, thank you for saying
Oh, no, I don't get it. The buying and selling, and it hurts my heart.
Just thinking about the visionary space that you must have been in to see through sort of the villainization of the parents and the sort of the shaming the parents, and it's the parents, and realizing that no, actually the parents are part of the team, you said. And I think about that. To me, that's amazing because it means that you were really listening to the kids, because kids want their parents to be involved. Kids want their parents to be part of the team. The parents, like, that's who they want to figure this stuff out. And I feel like that's what the horse is. It's like they just want their person to see them, and they want to know that their person notices that the horse is seeing their person. And
it's so true.
Yeah.
And when you're in it and you're developing this, I mean, it would sound terrific, and I would sound really bright if I thought, boy, I really had this long-term vision. You're in it, and so you're creating it as you go along, or all of a sudden things start fitting together. So it really is when you're immersed in it. I look back at it and I think, oh yeah, that was really good. But at the time, it's like, oh, we've got to do something different here.
Okay.
How can we be working so deeply with these kids and then send them back to a situation which hasn't transitioned or done anything different at all? And the kids, when we were working with them, so much of their grief and loss was the loss of that connection with their parents.
Yes.
So what are we doing?
Right.
You know, if we don't bring that full circle and we don't bring the parents back in, what are we doing? You know, it's for naught. So the kids always loved nothing better than knowing their parents were coming to do the work.
Right.
They were like, I'm not alone. I'm not the black sheep. I'm not the bad kid. Because we always said you're enrolling your whole family in this. Everybody's got to do their work. Because we're not just going to fix.
I got so many light bulbs going off.
Many.
Yeah.
The first one is just, like you said, having clients bring horses into training and leave them for, even for long periods, months and months and months. And then the horse would go home after they'd been in training and in a very specific program for a long time, had a knowing that was centered around that experience. And then they'd go to their new house or their new home with their people, and sure enough, a few weeks later you get a call like this isn't working, or like
and then they trainer shop.
Exactly. It must be the trainer.
Yeah, let's find. It must be. Well, it's the trainer. It's the horse. It's that. It's always outside. I suppose sometimes that might be the case, but not most of the time.
Sure.
I don't think so.
I think very little of the time.
Yeah, very little of the time.
Yeah. It seems like so much of what you're speaking about. It's a great teaching example talking about kids, because kids are naturally innocent. It's not like they are naturally bad, right? They may do things that are not good for themselves or for others, but that's usually based on trauma.
Yeah.
And that probably didn't originate within them. Like, they were born into this world unburdened. So where did that come from? And then it's this long thread. I mean, it may be multi-generational. It certainly involves the parents and the family. So just that trauma-informed lens, I guess, is how it's said now. But it seems like you said, in the trenches, just doing the work, you just saw that it was probably plain as day to you.
Sometimes it was plain as day, sometimes it would just pop up in the middle of something and you'd go, we used to laugh about this. I'd be running workshop after workshop after workshop, and there'd be clunky parts of the workshop, and you'd think, are we ever going to get through this? And about your 500th workshop in, you go, oh, we could tweak this a little bit and be a lot easier. We've been doing like this for years, and we never thought of this one little tiny tweak that would change everything. And that's how it would happen sometimes. We just laugh at ourselves and go, God, just because we've done it a million times doesn't mean it's the right way. And that would often be why we would create something different.
We have a saying around our house, that would have been good to know yesterday. Like, these epiphanies you have.
It's really true.
Yeah.
So it was like a MASH unit. Like, I don't know, maybe this tool would work better and we did it. So.
But that's exciting,
too.
It
was never dull. It was never dull.
I think that speaks to the value of what you do, too. It would take me, just to use your example, it would take me 500 workshops to figure that out, but you could tell somebody out the gate. So that's one of the powers of mentorship and learning. Exactly. Is you can take decades and turn it into days through all of this. So you have a lifetime of... of experience and knowledge to pull from. But that's where horses and kids, they really are such great parallels, just from that authenticity, the clean slate, just the willingness, the grace.
The willingness, the grace, willingness to look at some.
Because when you said how excited they were don't, like, they want that connection. They want to have the parents involved. And we feel that with the horses, like they instantly perk up. They want to connect. You don't ride deer or elk. It's like they're prey animals, similarly built. Victoria's grandpa said horses don't have to let us ride them. Yeah. So there's a part of them that seeks and enjoys connection and relationship. It's discovering that and then uncovering what it takes to get there. And those are the universal principles that apply to horsemanship or parent coaching equally, I think. It's like an ocean. Once you're in it, you're just swimming in it, and it's never ending.
You just immerse yourself in that. You can just, it just never stops. It just grows and grows.
So with parent coaching, I'll put you on the spot. You can put it on your coaching hat.
Josh is like,
are there?
All right, let me get some questions in
let's get this
about parenting. Well, over here. Yes.
I could have used you. I still could, obviously, but really, like a few years ago. I wish I knew this was a thing. I didn't know there are parent coaches.
No,
there's the joke they don't come with a manual, but there are coaches. That's an amazing thing because the whole world would be better, right? If family units were brought together, just because it helps interrupt that trauma cycle. I'm curious, just trying to make all these connections with horsemanship. What are maybe, let's just say 3, and if you think of more or less, that's fine, but 3 of the primary principles of relationship, connection, healing, whatever it might be that you think of when working with parents?
Yeah, it's funny. If I tell anybody what I do, if I'm on a plane and somebody says, "Oh, what do you do?" I tell them I'm a proctologist because the questions don't follow. I really don't, but I think about it.
That's a good
but
one.
people go, so what would you tell me about it? And I think very much like with horses, I think parents want their kids to be happy, and as I say to them, that's a result of, I think, respect, boundaries, certainly love. I think unconditional love is something that one can conceptualize and think about. It's not very practical. So I think love with clear boundaries, with clarity, with expectations. That's not 3, that's a lot of words. I think communication, respect, and oftentimes getting out of the way and letting your child be.
Those are the hard ones for
I was hoping you'd say something a little easier.
Hot dogs.
That's right. Those are literally the hardest things for us to do. So that's so helpful and also uncomfortable that you brought those up, because it's like, those are the ones, that's it. That's what we need some coaching on.
And that's what we talk about all the time with the horses, and part of what I've shared before is that our stories get so in the way. And one of the things that was most an impediment with my growth with Blaze was me continuing to tell his trauma story. Blaze doesn't repeat his trauma story. He doesn't even know that he's got one. And I would tell it, and I could use it as excuses, and I found myself telling it all the time, and that was my description of him. And he's so much bigger and more than that, and it was so limiting. And it was limiting in what I was willing to try and do with him, or what I was trying to seek with him. I mean, this is a magnificent, talented, athletic horse that I was so proud I could lead around on a halter. It's like, hello. So I had to get out of my own way and let go of the story, which I still have vestiges of, and it comes in all the time when it's convenient. But I think we do that as parents too. And I've done workshops with parents, which is, what is your story? And I've used my narrative with Blaze to help them understand how much of a burden that can be for the children and how many barriers that can put up. And even though you've got to go out and advocate like crazy with a kid with a challenge, and you've got to be there for them, and it's imperative they can't do that for themselves initially, stepping back from that and allowing that is one of the probably the most difficult and challenging and greatest gifts a parent can give their child or our horses. Yeah.
I love that. There's a paradox there too, what I'm hearing, because when you say that and I think of how that would feel to do that, it's actually like a big release. It's like takes a burden off your shoulders. It's like, oh, that sounds amazing, and how freeing that would be. But yet, as we started, like, that is so challenging to actually do. So that seems to be a bit of the paradox. Like, it's so hard, but it's so easy at the same time.
Well, and I don't know that it's necessarily easy to let go of the reins, to ride on loose reins. I wouldn't say that. And I think if you've got some other things to back you up, and you've got some places of feeling of confidence, or you've got some skills or other tools. Like, I could not be riding loose rein if we hadn't done all the other work ahead of time. I mean, if you put me on Blaze and said, now ride with a loose rein, I couldn't have done it.
Right.
So once you've done it and you've gotten to that place, it does feel easy. The release feels easy, but releasing your children and their well-being and where they're going, woo, nothing easy about that.
Yeah.
Nothing easy about that at all. No.
I feel like I need to pay you for a session after this. Yeah.
My son, Colin, who's my second favorite son, who's a coach, and he works for me. He's a brilliant coach, and he reminds me all the time when I step out of line and start trying.
I've heard you.
I grab the reins, and he's like, "Get over yourself! What are you doing? Stop it!" Oh, he just pulls me up in 2 seconds because it's natural.
When your son becomes a parent coach, I mean,
yeah.
That's inception.
And a really good parent coach, taught by the best. Like, I think that's saying something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He loves it.
Okay, so you talked about a couple of principles that I think are really powerful with everything, and that we can certainly tie it back to horses. One was communication, and the other was boundaries. I know Victoria has a really beautiful quote that we use a lot in the horse journey coaching. Do you remember that?
Oh, it's not my quote. It's Prentice Hemphill. They say, let me get this right, boundaries are the space within which I can love you and myself simultaneously.
Ooh, sweet.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a good one. And but that's sort of what I'm hearing when you talk about boundaries in the coaching. That's certainly the lens or the way I'm trying to frame boundaries when I'm working with folks and their horses.
Right.
So I'd love to hear your thoughts on boundaries.
Well, I think they're the framework of any relationship. I don't know that you can have a relationship, a healthy relationship, without boundaries, because it does help keep the individuals, whether it's two humans or a human and a horse, it does allow them to have their own autonomy and their own identity and their own values, and then the boundaries figure out where they can meet, I suppose, and where they can interact in a healthy way. It's so interesting because you're always talking to me about boundaries with Blaze, because I think it's so adorable when he steps into my space and wants to be with me all the time. So it's like, oh God, that's just the sweetest. I mean, number one, I love when he nuzzles with me, but it was also something that I've dragged along with me, which is he doesn't trust any. He does trust me though, and that's the sweetest thing. And he really does. I mean, that the connection there is really strong. But I think where we want to develop that more, and it's the same with kids, is with an attunement. So it's not just about me and what I'm doing. It's really having to see Blaze or your child, what their needs are, and respecting them, and not have it try and fit my expectations or what I want or what I need. I think the biggest thing that we do for our animals, our horses, or our kids is we feel like we're doing them a favor when we do things for them, when we make it easier for them, when we think like we're creating a smoother path for them. And in fact, in many cases, we're ripping them off. We're taking away the opportunity for them to see what they're capable of, to see what they're able to do for themselves or on their own. And I think healthy boundaries also means that sometimes you do have to step in, and you can help. But it's not about you. It's about what they need and how it's going to enhance who they are and help them grow.
That's powerful. Another parallel I'm seeing you talk about is like children seek the guardrails, the framework you called it, like they seek that. And we know that horses are seeking that too. And we see that as one of the most common problems people have with horses is not knowing how to communicate boundaries and not knowing how to establish, partly because they don't really understand horse language and culture, so they misinterpret things. So I just think that's interesting that both populations, children and horses, are seeking boundaries, and they're going to push until they find the boundary, and they may push so far that things get dangerous even.
Right. Yeah. And then it's considered bad behavior.
Right.
That it's about them.
Yes.
That's when we tighten up with more restrictions for a kid or a different bit or different gear on a horse, because it's so easy to blame them. And when you've got a child, you're developing whether they've been abused or not, that lack of clarity creates anxiety that they will fill in with what they know. And that's when that gets really agitated and activated, and all of those pieces start to come to the surface because they don't know what to do. And it just builds. So the more clarity we have, and that's what you always talk about, the better for them. And when you talk about communication, it just struck me, it's better with horses because they don't get our words. With our kids, we talk way too much. I say to parents, stop talking. Sorry. And listen. We talk at our kids. I talk at my horse. And the language is a lack of words often. And listening. And creating that space for them to come out. So certainly with parenting, the less we talk, the more our kids might share with us or give us that space. You know, the car ride. Yeah. You're looking at the road and they're chattering. You're going, how come this doesn't happen when I'm looking at face to face and going, what did you do? Same thing with horses. You know, the more we can be present in ourselves and open our mind to curiosity, obviously works better for them. You've got to put a lot of things aside in order for that to happen.
Well, the boundaries create the space for that to unfold, it seems like.
Yeah.
So what do you think, like one of these things, it's easy to say, hard to do. So sometimes enacting boundaries, Victoria has helped me a lot with that. I struggle a lot with boundaries with kids and still do, but she's helped me make those connections that you're talking about. But what do you think gets in the way? Like, I would need to get really introspective with myself to answer that, but you've seen thousands of people now. Like, what gets in the way of establishing boundaries?
I think, without putting a negative bend on it, because I struggle as well with it, we don't like to be uncomfortable. We don't like the discomfort. We want to be helpful. We want to be liked. I mean, that was a big one for me. Yeah. I want to be seen as the one that comes in and, you know, saves and rescues. And part of it is maybe we're just not familiar with them. We haven't been taught them, you know. So implementing something you haven't grown up with or been taught with is really hard to do, to put that in place. So, you know, the parent that is more enabling, that's not a bad intention.
Right.
You know, it's just what would be better than that? What would be more helpful than that? And being able to recognize your own discomfort with it. You know, for sure. And that I see that all the time with my relationship with Blaze. It's, oh my God, he's going to feel abused, or he's going to feel like I don't like him, or he's going to feel this or that. And the truth is, the more that I'm able to establish boundaries with him, the more confident he is. In so many ways, it shows up all over the place. And the clarity. So we talk about, when I talk to parents, clean, clear, concise, and concrete. Communication. There's a lot of alliteration there, but that's the same thing with the horses. Is don't use my hands a million times. Don't be in his face. Plant them, leave them, and let him figure it out from there. So it's a pretty imperative.
What are those 4 C's again?
Clean, clear, concise, and I say concrete, because for those are black and white thinkers or processor, we fill in all that shit in between, and they're like gone. So land it.
Yeah. Okay.
And then be quiet.
That's perfect for horse.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking, and I don't really have it super well formed, but with the boundaries, part of it's like even a personal confidence or empowerment too. I feel like part of it's that, and we see that a lot with people working with horses, and part of that is because of the other things you said. Maybe they just literally don't know what it looks like because they've never seen it before. But it seems it's very empowering personally. I'm sure you felt that working with parents when you help them have those aha moments and just step into that.
I do think it's connected. You could go back to it. I think it's connected with self-worth. You know, I really, the work that we're doing and peeling back those layers, you have to be pretty clean and clear with yourself in order to set boundaries consistently, and none of us are in that place all the time.
Right.
You know, when it's brought to our attention or we really have something we need to resolve, it helps, but it really is connected. At least for me, it's connected to self-worth and my view of myself and my story about myself and all of that. So this is not like, okay, 1, 2, 3, we're gonna put boundaries in place, it's not gonna be good. It's how do you practice that? How do you communicate with your children? If you haven't been in that place, you haven't been with your horse, it's okay to step in and start doing it. Just because you haven't done it before doesn't mean it's not going to be impactful and you can't practice it. I mean, horses are really forgiving. Kids are just grateful. They might scream and shout about it initially, you know, when you take the iPad away. But it's like, oh, yay, somebody's in charge.
Right.
And if they don't have somebody in charge, it's really scary.
Right. It's actually frightening.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
And we see it working with people and horses in the boundaries setting, and especially when it's sort of a new concept or working on setting clearer boundaries or new boundaries. There's an embodiment piece to it with the horses that is fascinating. When you talk about what gets in the way, one of the things is just uncomfortable. You can see that manifest in our bodies when we're working with horses, and all of a sudden we have to set up this sort of maybe even a spatial boundary, just like a boundary bubble around your body, and you can see we struggle with that, just the uncomfortableness in our own skin, in our own bodies, and the horse is all about body. And so I just think that's a really fascinating piece of boundary work with horse, and then obviously parallel kids. But
it's huge, and when I think about I overdo it. You know, when you've said to me, set a boundary, I overreact, and it might be, show your kid, that's it, you're never going to drive for the rest of your life, or you're in your room now for the next 10 years, and you're thinking, really, I'm stuck with this now? But I think about, when you say that to me, it's kind of, I come in a little bit harder until I can find my own space and comfort level with that. So you have to seek it.
It's good work.
Yeah, it's real good work. I hadn't thought about the embodiment, but that's very, very true.
Right. And then going back to the inherent worthiness. You have to believe that you're worthy. Just as you are, just inherent self-worth in order to be able to set like an authentic boundary, a boundary that comes from a place that's grounded in like what you really need, what the other person really needs. It's just, boy, this stuff just gets... It's
so deep, and it can't just be hard work. It can't be just hard, because hard would be like, oh, wait a minute, he looks so sad, or he's really miserable, he's crying, or he's upset with me. It can't be that. It's got to be really a whole bigger, I suppose, combination of things that you're really looking at is where need really supersedes want in that case. You got to be willing to be uncomfortable. You could never do it.
It makes me think of the word harmony. Harmony with horses is a concept we're all seeking, and it seems like boundaries are the balance of the heart work. You know, you can't really have one without the other either, and they balance each other out. I love that.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's kind of your gatekeeper of keeping it honest, I suppose.
And I think what you said too is really, really helpful and hopefully freeing for people, that you can start now. You can start anytime. In fact, you haven't done it before doesn't mean you're screwed.
Absolutely not.
Like, you can start right away. And horses are so forgiving, so willing. Every day's fresh. I might make a mistake yesterday, come back today, as our friend Ty said, ask for forgiveness, or maybe a process around that. But start fresh. Just start now. And you don't have to get it perfect the first try.
No, and I think that's so true. And I think you have to try it on.
Right.
You have to try it on and see what works for you. I mean, I might watch somebody who's got great boundaries, but that's not my style, right? It's not comfortable for me. I might have to step into it really slowly. But it's forgiving yourself and giving yourself permission to try something new.
Right. And that goes back to everybody's got their own process. And so, watching the YouTube videos or taking the lesson or having the trainer do the horse, that's probably not going to be sustainable because that's not necessarily your process.
Right.
Or your style or your lens.
Right.
And so ultimately the most powerful work is the work that we do with ourselves, with our horses. And when the clean slate of the horse and asking the horse for forgiveness, that is all very true. But it doesn't mean that we might not have to work through some of the stuff that's happened because of our lack of boundaries. And I think that's where folks get tripped up. I know I've been tripped up with that before. It's like, well, I'm starting fresh and I'm doing it right this time. And the horse is still like kind of doing the same things.
Well, such a good point. Getting back to the parallel with parenting and horses, it's got to be consistent. It's got to be consistent. So you can't go out one day and go, I'm setting a boundary, and check that off. I got that one down. It's got to be consistent because they won't believe it. I mean, think about kids setting a boundary. You've got to be consistent with it. It's got to be sort of a quiet consistency. And then we talk about trust.
Right.
And developing that trust, that mutual trust, it's only going to come through consistency. You can't change it up every day.
Right.
And sticking with it. And it doesn't have to be harsh. Like, parents are like, well, I've never done that before and I'm afraid to say that to my child. Let them know that you're working on yourself and that you're trying to change some things you're doing so that the relationship can change. I ask parents to be really transparent about that all the time. Not with little kids, but with kids that can understand. We're going to be changing some things because I haven't liked how I've come into this relationship in this situation. And I'm working on myself. And in order for me to do this, I can't support this. And that's what we do with the horses too. I don't say to Blaze, I'm changing this, but I don't have to come in heavy-handed because all of a sudden I'm going to be boundary conscious.
Right. I could see where even just writing that, saying it to yourself, journaling it is helpful, because that is an interesting thing with the communication aspect. Is you talked about talking too much with kids, and that's a thing. I find myself doing that constantly. And of course, that's a thing with horses, and it is helpful with horses because they literally don't speak human words, but there's so much communicated non-verbally. And of course, there's all this research now, especially with texting and emailing, where even amongst humans, like we're here in a room together talking, even on Zoom, you get to see each other versus a text, where like 80% of it is lost through just texting. And I think that's really interesting. But the language part, we do need to use language too. So that's another one of the paradoxes of this thing. Like we come to realizations and we learn things through language. So I just wonder if what you're saying there, like that, you don't literally say it to your horse necessarily, but you would say it to yourself and you maybe write it down, maybe say it out loud. That might even be a helpful exercise, because like our work with the book club and looking at Brene Brown's stuff, she's really helpful with like putting names to emotions and feelings, because like most of us can only name maybe 3 or 4 emotions. Most people can only name a handful, whereas there's really a list of dozens and dozens. There's so many nuances and scales and variations and all of that. So
it creates a clarity when you have the language, and then that clarity can maybe resonate in your body, and then there you are with the horse and you're more clear.
When we talk about it, language is important. It's the filler that gets in our way. And I think about so with listening to Chris the other night and having her staff do silent, bring the horse in. I brought Blaze in yesterday. I said hello to somebody that was there just because I didn't want to be rude. I took him to a new place in the barn to groom him. I didn't talk to him. I just was with him. He was so calm and lovely. He did a little bit of liberty work, and it was very different, because it's not that I'm talking at him all the time, but it takes my brain away from being calm. I'm just chattering words. And so I think it's that intentionality which is so important.
Right.
Yeah.
I think about I think of all of that chatter that's in our heads that we're thinking about when we're just sort of grooming, or even when we're riding or just warming up or whatever. as white noise
It is.
to the horse. Like I just feel it, or not
It's
even.
not even, yeah.
It's like that fuzz on the TV when we used to have TVs that had
Static.
channels.
It's
Static.
static.
That's static. I don't even know what the word is because there's no such
Static,
thing
yeah,
anymore on, because we just have digital, or I don't even know what we have, internet TVs, but.
Well done, good catch.
Right, thank you. but the point is, it's like static. It's just like, it's kind of disconcerting and a little weird, and clearly no real communication is happening at that moment. So yeah, I think that's it. I was gonna say, we just have a few more questions left.
Okay.
But before we do those, are there any projects or things that you've got going on that you're involved in, organizations that you would want to talk about, or
No.
nothing like
You
that?
guys, just you guys.
Yeah.
You're my focus and my project. And I'm just trying to keep it really simple these
Perfect.
days.
Okay, so here's one that's kind of fun. What are the top 3 things that you would say are the most meaningful things that horses teach people?
Oh, wow. Compassion. I think nobility.
Ooh.
Yeah. Humble. Humbleness. Connection doesn't sound big enough to me. And attunement is because I've got it so in my head. But I think that, that whatever, that bridge, that connection, that heart connection to another being. I don't know if they teach us that, but that's what comes with it to me. I think they can teach us, they should teach us patience, quiet and calm, to listen, be curious. It's a lot, way more than 3.
That's okay. Yeah, because I think all those things are really important, and they do indeed teach us those things.
Yeah, the nobility and humility, I thought, that's not really something. That's just such a neat combination.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a connectedness. I know what you mean. The word connection is so, just doesn't sum it up.
Yeah.
And then you talked in the beginning about this old, the sense of like this ancient connection. Yeah. And that's, to me, it's like a connectedness to everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for me, I don't know where else I get that. I mean, I can look at it certainly when I'm out in nature. As I said, if you're, sitting in an ancient ruin someplace, and it's like, wow. I mean, you could just feel your connection to the earth and the universe through that. I mean, where else you certainly don't get it on the subway. You're not getting it when you're TikToking or whatever the hell they do. Here's
one. When it comes to horses, what do you feel gratitude for?
Everything. Everything. I think the wholeness of myself that I experience with them. As I said, it's like truly home.
We've been reading a book by Dan Siegel called, is it Intra-Connected? Intra-Connected, yeah. He was influenced a lot by science, but also Buddhism. And the first noble truth of Buddhism is that we're all one, and the source of suffering is losing that sense of connection. And in the intra-connected part, I just hear you saying that on both your qualities of horses and what you're grateful for.
One word to describe the kind of horse person you aspire to be.
Always seeking and learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
This has been amazing.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for showing up and...
Oh, you're welcome. Oh, my God. I hope it's okay.
This has been an amazing conversation. I've loved every second.
Oh, good. Oh, I'm glad. And we can always talk about it over wine.
Yeah.
But yeah, good. I hope so.
That's what these conversations we're hoping are, this podcast. Like, we've had some amazing conversations with the people that we've had on the podcast, and there's been a few times we're like, oh, I wish we were recording that so other people could hear it. Yeah. And so this felt like something that we could have done over dinner, over wine, but also it's kind of cool to like share it, and maybe other people will be thinking, yes,
Good.
that's what I thought, and that's how
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah. Well, it is when I listen to different things. Yeah.
It's helpful.
It's really helpful. I love listening to that
Yes.
podcast. Yeah.
So thank you, Barb
You're
Cass.
welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you. This has been wonderful.
Good.
Yeah,
Have
thank you,
fun.
Barb. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we're all on this journey together, so I think it's very helpful to share, and you have so much to share. I just want to acknowledge that too, that I just see you and I think of, it's almost like the room is just full of the thousands. I just want to honor and acknowledge you for that.
I think that's why I felt such immediately meeting you guys. I felt such an affinity for you, because I think it's all of us that are healing and doing this in our own way, and to be able to come together with that is just the most magnificent gift to me. I'm not kidding. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
It's a community that we're in.
Yeah,
It's
everybody's got something.
connected and
Yeah.
talking about connection. It's like, that's why we're doing this, is so that we can be in the company of people like you. I mean, it's like, this is what we need. This is the world we want to live in.
It's phenomenal.
It's phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. It's beautiful. You should celebrate that in our art.
Thank you, Barb, for joining us. I know hopefully this is just first of many, and I know we're planning some workshops and lots of amazing things in the future, but thank you for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge with all of us and anybody who's listening, and I look forward to the next one. I hope you enjoyed the show today. We'd love for you to join our free Substack community for The Herd is Calling. Connect with us, engage in thoughtful discussions, and access exclusive content. Click the link nearby to subscribe. It's so easy and totally free. We appreciate you listening, and as always, may the horse be with you.